Hi, I'm Sarah from the Baby Wearing Academy and I'm here today to talk to you about the LennyLamb Hip carrier. Now this carrier is a great solution for times when you find yourself constantly holding your baby over here. So generally they're somewhere between sort of 4 and 6 months of age. They've nailed their head and neck control, they're possibly working on sitting up, and you find yourself constantly doing this, sticking your hip out, trying to get stuff done with one hand. This carrier is a brilliant option for this stage. It means that you can have your baby on your hip where you naturally want them, but you don't have to stick your hip out and you don't need to hold on to them with one hand because the carrier is doing the job for you. It can for some people be better than something like a ring sling or a pouch sling, which is a one-shouldered carry, because it also has the waistband, so it helps to distribute the weight more evenly around your torso, distribute it between your shoulder and your hips, because it's got the waistband and the shoulder strap. So let me do you a quick rundown on how to use it, and I'll show you how to put it on. So it's got a body panel connected to the waistband here. Just inside the body panel, just inside the waistband, it's got some Velcro, and what you can do is just undo that and slide it in to fit your baby. You want it to fit from the back of one knee all the way across their thighs and their bottom into the back of the other knee, so that it keeps them, let me show you, keeps them in a proper seated position. You don't want them to have their legs, you don't want it too wide so that it's past their knee and pushes their leg out, but equally you don't want it too narrow because it's going to let their legs hang down and their weight's then going to pull away from you. So you want it to go from the back of one knee up their thigh, across their bottom and down the other leg, so that it goes knee to knee. So I've just adjusted it in slightly for Charlie. You've also got at the top of the body panel here some adjusters, so that if your baby is slightly shorter, you can make the body panel shorter just by tightening that strap. Charlie doesn't really need it, I don't think, so I'm going to loosen that up, but that does give quite a good adjustment. So I'm then going to think about where I want my baby to be held. So I tend to use my left hip. I'm very right-handed. I like to have the right-hand side of my body free. You might find that different for you. So whenever I talk about my left and my right, if you're following me and using your left hip, then everything's the same. If you would do the opposite to me and use your right hip, then when I talk about left, just think right. So yeah, I want the baby on my left hip. So what that does is, if I have the carrier near my left side, this strap is in front of me. I've made that a little bit longer, and the strap that would be behind me, I've tightened because it's a little bit harder to tighten behind you. What I'm then going to do is take that waistband, get the fabric nice and flat, flip it in towards me, and I'm going to put it relatively high on my body. I don't want to wear the waistband down there. I want it to be up here so that I've got the baby's bottom where I would naturally want to hold them. And I'm going to put it just off centre, so it's not right round my hip there, but equally it's not dead in front of me. It's just off centre there. And I'm going to bring the strap round me and clip in at the front here. There is a little red, where is it? Here it is. Hairband style safety elastic. If you pull that out to the front, then when you clip in, you can then loop that little red hairband style elastic over the buckle. What they really want you to do is also, see, it's tucked in, I can't do it now. What they also want you to do is pull all of that webbing through. Now, the idea behind a safety elastic is that if your buckle comes undone as you're walking down the street, this happens. It's held by that elastic. The carrier's not instantly going to fall to the floor. Now, what I would say, I have a pathological inability to use a safety elastic. It's just, I don't know, just not me. Just my brain doesn't. But listen to this. You're going to know if you haven't clipped that up properly. If you get some fabric caught in it, let's see if we can do that on purpose. I'm going to use this little covery bit. Now it did click shut, so actually that is secure, but did you hear the difference in that? I would know that something's not quite right, so I can then undo. Can I? No, it's because I've caught the fabric in it, see? I could undo. Come on, you can do it, Sarah. There you go. And then I can redo. Listen to the good click. I mean, they're very robust. They're like car seat buckles, but that's what that red elastic is for, to loop that round there, pull all of that webbing out, so that if your buckle randomly explodes as you're walking down the street, your carrier's not going to fall off. I can then tighten it, and I find with the carrier on my side, the angle to get it tightened can be awkward. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to hold that leftover strap in my left hand, use my right hand to push this webbing towards the buckle, and then pull it. And it's very easy to do like that. Any strap that has a little elastic loop on the end like that is so that you can roll that strap. Once you've got it the right size for you, if you want to, again, you don't have to, but you can roll that strap and then use that elastic loop to fold over that bunched up bit of fabric, and it just keeps it tidied up and out of the way. Right, so that's my carrier. What I'm going to do is hold my baby on my hip and flip it up over. Let me show you how that works. So here is Charlie. I'm going to hold Charlie on my hip there, just in front of my hip, and I'm going to bring the body panel of the carrier up over Charlie's body, smooth it up so that there's no saggy bits, no slack over Charlie's body. I'm then going to take that left hand and I'm going to bring it to the outside that way, so that you can see as I bring this shoulder strap up and over my head, it goes over my arm. I'm going to spread that bit of fabric out a bit, as much as I can, and then I'm going to tighten this strap at the front. And that again is in its own little sort of safety elastic there, and I can, if I wanted to, roll that strap and put the little elastic loop over it. Life's too short. And actually, Charlie could do with having that tightened a little bit, so I will do that on both sides. That's the height of the body panel. It would have been much easier to do before I put the baby in, but there you go. Oh, so it's holding Charlie from knee to knee comfortably, so that in that seated position, I can tuck any excess fabric if I want to. It comes up to the nape of Charlie's neck. Now, depending on the age of your baby, they don't necessarily need to be supported to the nape of their neck. What you're looking for, the younger your baby is, the more likely then they're going to need to be supported to the nape of their neck. At Charlie's age, Charlie's likely to have nailed their head and neck control, and they may be working at sitting up unaided, they may be working on their torso control, in which case, if I wanted to allow Charlie to get one or even both arms, it's tough when your baby doesn't have any actual muscle tone. Now I'm giving up on that arm at the back. Here's Charlie's other arm. But if Charlie were a real child and wanted to get their arms out over the top, that's absolutely fine if they've nailed their head and neck control and they're working on torso control. At that point, I want the carrier to come up into their armpits. I don't want it any lower than into their armpits. If Charlie then was getting nice and relaxed and starting to drift off, I'm probably going to encourage them just to get their elbows in so that the carrier comes a little bit higher up to their shoulders or even the nape of their neck to give them that extra support as they're falling asleep. Now, with the weight distribution between my shoulder and my waistband, I don't need to stick my hip out. I don't need to hold Charlie. I've got two hands free. I mean, admittedly, I've still got a baby here, so I am still limited with the stuff that I can do. But I could carry 2 bags of shopping, I could make myself some lunch, I could reply to an email, you know, we could walk around the park and look at the ducks, you know, all sorts of things that you can do. And some babies, this is just their preferred position to be held, or it might be your preferred position to hold the baby. In terms of safety, babies should always be nice and high on your body. They should be at a natural height rather than kind of hanging lower down on your body. You want their head to be on the firm part of your chest above your breast tissue, any soft chest tissue that you've got. Although, if you are breast or chest feeding, actually this can be a really good position. You can slightly lower, bounce them down, allow them to feed, and then just lift them up again to the firm part of your chest when they're finished, so that your soft parts of your body aren't an airway hazard for them. So Charlie is nice and high on my body, near the firm part of my chest, not near any squishy bits. The carrier is snug, it's tight. You want to be able to put a hand on your baby's head, do a little dip forward, and not feel their body weight pull away from you. You don't want to leave them any extra space in the carrier that they could slump into. They're at risk then of putting their chin on their chest and closing their airway. So high and tight. The last one, Charlie should be visible. You should be able to see your baby's face at all times. Now, some babies are face planters. If you've got a natural face planter, the thing to be aware of is that even when they're face planted, if I do the ugly double chin manoeuvre, I can still see most of Charlie's face. If you take a flat hand and put it on your face, you can still breathe because you've got that little gap below your nose. So as long as what Charlie has done is that against my body and not that, then they haven't tucked their chin down onto their chest and their airway is not as likely to be at risk. I would want to make sure that I'm not wearing any great big fluffy jumpers or like a big scarf or something that's going to get in there and obstruct their airway. And yes, if I can get them to turn so that I can see their face, then great. But some babies are persistent face planters. You want to be able to see the majority of their face, even if it means you need to do the ugly double chin manoeuvre. So high, tight and visible. Those are your safety things. In terms of taking the carrier off, I'm basically going to reverse the process. So I'm going to find this strap at the front and I'm going to loosen to be able to take that off over my head, supporting Charlie's weight the whole time. And then I can just peel the carrier like so. One of the really genius things about the LennyLamb twin is that if you clip 2 of them together, LennyLamb Hip carrier, I've given it away again now. The LennyLamb Hip carrier is that if you clip 2 of them together, you can carry twins, one on one side, one on the other. It works brilliantly from about 3 months, adjusted age for twins, about 3 months, to around 12 to 18 months, when they're in 12 to 18 months clothing size. LennyLamb like to say the hip carrier, the twin carrier, goes up to the age of 2. To be fair, I think that by the time you're carrying either 1 or 2 2-year-olds, depending on whether you've got the twin or you're just using one as a hip carrier, let me get this off. I think you're going to be looking for a wider body panel to carry a 2-year-old. But yeah, if you've got a petite 2-year-old, then you absolutely may get away with it. So I suspect it's going to fit quite well until you've got a child who's in that sort of 12 to 18 month clothing bracket, at which point you might need to be thinking about sizing up. So it would work well either for one baby. If you are using 2 carriers as a twin carrier, then if you had, for example, a 12-month-old and a 4-month-old, you'd absolutely get away with it. I'm going to do a separate video about using 2 of them together as a twin carrier, but that is the LennyLamb Hip carrier and it's genius.